But to me, I don't care where the fire hall is. I need the fire, where we would like to have the fire hall real soon.
Okay, we'll call council back to order. And we have a 1 o'clock appointment for a public hearing. So before we have the public hearing, I need a motion to recess council. Jason, all in favor? Carried. And with that, I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2017-58. Has proper notification's been done.
Yes, Mr. Chair, they have.
Does any member of the public have any concern of any councillor listening to this public hearing? Not seeing anything, please continue.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. So this is the public hearing for bylaw 2017-58, which is DC 7, the Murfield bylaw amendments. You'll remember this came for first reading, I believe it was last month. So this is an amendment that applies to the Lakes of Murfield community, and the DC will shift dwelling single detached from a discretionary use to a permitted use. So they would no longer be coming to council for a decision. Our development officers would be processing those applications. It would shift dwelling semi-detached from a discretionary use to a permitted use as well. It would require detailed architectural design guidelines for future commercial development within the Lakes of Murfield. And it would create a new Cell 9, which would restrict future development on the unserviced, unsubdivided lots until 90% of the lots in Cell 1 have issued building permits pursuant to the Safety Codes Act. And then finally, it's a kind of a housekeeping measure, is provide a reduced setback for side garage drive homes due to the unique configuration of the homes on the lot. So I'll just go down. I noted the amendments. It's not on the screen. It's set to the computer. It'll be on your screen, but it's not for some reason. It's on my laptop here. But, okay. And so that I'll close my report and open, if you'd like to open the public hearing to the public to discuss.
Okay. Any questions? Comments? Any member of the public have any questions, comments, concerns?
You guys are disappointed that you didn't?
I was going to mark it down on the calendar. Okay.
This thing on, I don't have to do anything.
You're all good. It's on right.
I'm usually loud enough without it. Scott Kolowaski, I'm a resident, Lakes of Muirfield, and here we are again, 6 months later, 2 years later, 3 years later, trying to get our development fixed. So hopefully, from what I gather, from what you're looking at doing, is we're drawing that final line in the sand that they're not going to be able to, the developer, build anything more until they get the wastewater thing solved, but allow our builders that are currently there and our homeowners to continue. But we've sort of hit the end. They've got to come up with a solution, hopefully, and hopefully maybe even council can come up and give us an opportunity or help if they're not doing what they need to get done, you know, help us maybe this time. I've asked numerous times, you know, 9-year resident owning a lot out there. We just need some, we need a resolution to this. But anyways, that's, we don't oppose it, or at least I don't. I know numerous of my neighbors. Just happy to see that there is that line in the sand sort of drawn.
Can you get us a map up there, Reed, please?
I have through the chair, I've got a question for the staff. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. I always step in something, but
Colton, you might.
it's in mine, and I don't know if it's a misprint or whatever, but I'm looking at this, the public hearing for bylaw 2758, that's what we're looking at,
Yeah.
be closed. How can you have a closed public hearing? What's that mean? Just for clarification.
Thinking after the public hearing, we close it. Is that what you meant?
Through the chair. So we're doing a new process where we do the first reading the first month, then we bring the public hearing the next month after it's been advertised. So that motion will be to close the public hearing once everyone's done speaking. Then I have if council wishes, I can bring forward the report to give second and third reading today, and you can give second and third reading, or you could choose to just close the public hearing today, and then I can bring back the report for second and third reading in January or February if you want to think about it.
Okay, so we're actually doing this, it was just to finalize the public hearing.
Correct.
The way it's written, it sounds like it's closed to the public.
Okay, that motion, the purpose of the motion was to direct that it be closed after it's done, but we can relook at the wording.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Could you put a map up where the line in the sand is?
This map, I believe, shows it best. It's an overlaid aerial with the cells shown. So you'll see the black area. Maybe I'll get the lights here. So it's a little clearer. The area in black would be the cell 9, where development would not be able to occur until 90% of the lots in the blue cell, which is cell 1, have issued building permits. So basically, once 90% of the building permits in cell 1 have been issued, then this DC would come back to council for a proposed amendment to open up cell 9. Council could choose not to open up cell 9 if they felt there still wasn't a wastewater solution in place.
Okay. So there's no way they can just go into developing cell 9 without reopening this bylaw?
Through the chair, that's correct. It would have to go to council through all 3 readings once again if they wanted to amend this DC district to do development and have issued development permits in cell 9.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I know we've talked about it at the previous council meeting, I'd assume, maybe the one before that. How many more houses are to be developed in cell 1 and 3?
So we did a projection, and currently about 66% of the building permits have been issued in cell 1 currently, and that's through the last 11 years of the community's development. So we ran some numbers, and based on current development, annual development trends for the community, we project that 90% won't be hit for another 2 to 4 years, depending on the market.
Any other questions? Concern I have in cell 9, that's when we allow cell 9 to develop, we're going to, I'm sure, ask for a waste facility. Is there enough land left in cell 9 to make that owner put in the waste facility? Do you think? An opinion?
Through the chair, that'd be an engineer's, good question for an
Yeah.
engineer.
Go ahead. If you got some comments, please come up and.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, my name is Jimmy Souza. I'm the project manager up at the Lakes of Muirfield in Lyelta, Alberta. First of all, I want to let you guys know that I've been working really closely with Colton and Angie to try and do something that we feel keeps the hammer down on us and does not stop guys like him and out there who bought these lots many years ago from building, and the residents out there from turning their community into a ghost town. Like, we think this is a really fair proposal based on what Colton, and I got to applaud him for it, has put together here. To answer your direct question, I'll be addressing that later. At 2 o'clock, I'm scheduled to give you guys an update on what's been going on, and that will be addressed. The simple answer is yes. That's yes in a positive way, not yes in a negative way. But in the spirit of Christmas, I wanted, especially for Councillor Kester and Councillor Armstrong, I get your frustration. Nobody gets it more than I do. You guys have been here, Ben, especially from day one when you approved this development. And ironically, as I was sitting there this morning at my desk, I realized, oh my goodness, it's been almost to the day 4 years when this whole mess started. When we got that crazy email, when we got all the stuff where the county across the street was saying, that's it, no more, we can't have it, even though we had agreements in place. So I wrote a little poem here in the spirit of Christmas. I hope you guys will allow me to do this, just to
Okay.
lighten the mood. I see you got your Christmas tie on there, Ben. And this is the situation in a nutshell. There you go. Hey, hey. Somebody string up a ladder quick. Here we go. And I hope you like it because it's coming from the heart. 'Twas the night before Christmas, 2013. That's when I got an email from Stan and Irene. From the words on the page, they appeared to shout. There were capital letters and not a swear was left out. They had just read a story from the county next door. It said, residents at Muirfield will be serviced no more. I replied to the email in the spirit of the season and explained they couldn't do this because they didn't have a reason. I assured them that soon I'd be working this through and residents at Muirfield would be flushing their poo. Now, all these years later, no solution is found, but today I can tell you that I'm making good ground. And I'll address that at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Nobody has anything to say? Not seeing anything, I will close the public hearing for bylaw 2017-58. And we're now reopen council, and we're now in council. So do we want to go on to second and third readings? Do you have a presentation for that? Let's hear the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's pretty hard to top that, so I'll try to summarize here. So it's largely a recap of what I'd presented at the first reading. This is file LU 2017-58. This will affect the entire area within the Lakes of Muirfield Area Structure Plan. The background is in the report, and Jimmy just alluded to it with Rocky View County and the county and Wheatland no longer having, or Muirfield no longer having that agreement for the wastewater. As I noted, the proposed amendment, the largest one, would be shifting dwellings to being a permitted use again, so they wouldn't be coming to council for a decision. They'd be going to our development officers. And then the other ones, as noted. This was circulated to external agencies with no major concerns or objections raised. It was also circulated to all landowners. We didn't receive any letters. I'll just do the maps here. Go down to the maps. So once again, that's the location plan. That's the overlaid cell aerial map, just kind of trying to explain all these different colors and cells. That's the map that would accompany this bylaw if approved. This is the circulation area that we mailed to. And then there's the formal bylaw. And then the actual draft direct control district is also in your package as well, with the major changes highlighted in yellow. So I'll just go back up to the recommendations.
Notified the county of Rocky View.
Through the chair, that's correct. I contacted the file planner for our borders with that. And that concludes my presentation on the second and third reading report.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I gotta find the RFD.
Want to proceed with second reading? Okay.
I'll make the motion that we proceed with option 1, bylaw 27-58, be given a second reading.
Second reading. Any questions? All in favor? It's carried. Third reading, anyone? No? You can do it again if you want.
I make the motion that bylaw 27-58 be given the third and final reading.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? All in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. Nobody's protesting, yep. Done deal, thank you. 1:15. Colton, could I get you to turn the lights on again, please? Okay, we'll move up to 2.2C, request for decision. Any questions?
I'll move we accept it as information.
Ben has moved. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision 2018 Provincial Ag Tour or Farm Tech Conferences, page 38.
I have a question. So if we plan to attend the Ag Service Board Conference in January, on January 16th to 19th, are we still able to go to the Farm Tech Conference? Because in the motion, it states that those who do not choose to attend the ASB conference may attend the 2018 Farm Tech Conference.
To me, it reads if you want to go to both, county's only paying for the first one. Sounds like to me the way it's worded. Any other questions? Tom?
As I'm going to be unable to attend either one, I would, I could, if Jason wanted to go to both, I could, is it possible for me to give up one of my, just a question.
Well, we can do whatever we want here. Up to a limit. As I look at the lawyer. No, we've never not done that before, no, but we could.
Is it necessary to go to both, or?
To go to both? The Ag Service Board is more like government policy. Farm Tech is producer-driven, techie is the word. They're two different flavors, two different views at the future, through different lenses, through different perspectives. They're both, I've been to both, and they're both very good, yes, but they're both very different too.
Sorry, I should have said the question differently. Is it beneficial for members of council and Ag Service to go to both?
Not in the same year, I wouldn't think, or if you want. So, originally it was, I guess just plain and simple, keep costs down.
Through the chair, I'd ask our CAO, what is our policy? We had a policy put in place to deal with that a few years back. What does it read? Because we shouldn't be going against our own policy.
Basically says one or the other in this case.
Okay? But it is something to think on if you want. We can change policy too. That's our primary job. Okay? I don't think I got a motion yet.
I'll move council approve the attendance of Ag Service Board members and the administration to the 2018 Provincial ASB Conference scheduled for January 16th to 19th at Grand Prairie, Alberta. Further, that council approve that Ag Service Board members and administration that choose not to attend the 2018 Provincial ASB Conference may attend the 2018 Farm Tech Conference scheduled for January 30th to February 1st at Edmonton Expo Center at Northlands in Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision. refund of tip payment. Page 40.
Also move that council refund the $605.49 to the previous owners on title as of November 16th, 2017, of roll number 8106,000.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Almost didn't see the pen there. Keep it up and we'll have to have a talking. Request for decision, Flag Design Selection Committee. Who's qualified?
What would this committee entail? Okay, well, if it's going to look like that one, I'd rather be on it so I can ixnay that.
We'll make that a motion, someone.
I'll move that we appoint Jason Wilson for the Flag Design Committee.
Okay. We have any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Jason. Okay, there was a handout, 2.2G. Is there any questions?
Is there any timeline on when this decision is going to be made, whether Hazar, or is this just a never-ending story?
Maybe our CAO can answer that better than I can.
Mr. Chairman, the history on this one is the village of Hazar had requested that Municipal Affairs undertake an investigation, inspection of Hazar, and also asked for a viability review to be done. And that was almost 2 years ago. It's out of our control. It's provincial process. I would hope the infrastructure audits are almost done. I would hope, in all hope, that in 2018 it would be completed. But it's up to the province.
Okay. Council's wishes.
I move that council appoint the Division 7 Councillor and Chief Administration Officer to sit as representatives on the Village of Hazar Viability Review Team with the Reeve appointed as an alternate.
Is there any questions? All in favor? Carried. And the dialysis letter, I forwarded everyone an email I got, and I also got a request and an email from the Mayor of Strathmore on much the same issue. It's, I should have sent the email to Margaret too, but I didn't. I will. If it, there's community members who've gotten together from Siksika, Gleason, Lyalta, Wheatland County, and Strathmore, and they're trying to get as big a geographical area represented by our group as possible to present a united front to Natasha, Director of Rural Medicine in Southern Alberta, and we arranged to have a meeting with her early in the next year to receive dialysis in Strathmore. And they would now need letters of support from as many government professionals and residents living as possible. And I believe that letter or that meeting is coming up on January the 4th. That's why I brought it up today. We don't have a council meeting till then. So all they're asking for is a letter of support that we would say dialysis is needed. And for, I guess Ben was here, last year we had some talk with the handy bus and how much work they put in taking patients to dialysis and stuff. It would relieve a burden on the handy bus too. But I'm sure handy bus can write their own letter. But if there's not any questions, or Ben?
I would move that we write a letter supporting this, but I also would suggest that we have the villages that aren't mentioned in here, but we've got the Village of Hazar, Standard, and Rocky Ford through our partnership also submit, or have the partnership submit on behalf of those villages, so that we have the whole area spoken for.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Is that something if your motion to notify the villages, how are we going to notify them? Would that be the county do it, or ask these to go back or do it through Ellen, through the CAOs?
Mr. Chairman, if you're okay with it, I'll just forward that information on to them, indicating that if council approves the motion, that the county will be sending a letter of support for dialysis in Strathmore.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, request for a decision, correspondence information. Got a letter from Municipal Affairs about the boundaries. Anyone got any information about that? I heard they were debating it. I haven't heard. Alberta Order of Excellence, looking for nominations. Letter from CN telling us how much they do. Letter from WID, I think a lot of this wasn't talked about when they come in and visited us too. It's in written form now. A major letter from Alberta Health Services. I do have I don't know if, same thing, but I got a book here too. Did everyone get one of these? Okay. I won't have to share it then. A letter from a concerned citizen on dust control. Thinking that should be part of a committee of the whole meeting, I'm thinking. Can we fit it in yet, or?
Mr. Chairman, it can be discussion at tomorrow's strategic
Tomorrow
session,
too.
so.
Would staff have an answer to why the difference? Do we putting in, volumes and stuff? I don't know if you have enough time for that.
We can probably provide that tomorrow, during tomorrow's discussion, if you like.
And Drumheller Provincial RCMP, a statistical comparison.
I got a question about that. I was reading through that. Under their category for robbery, they got a flat line, like they don't have any robbery. And then every single one of these, they got theft of this and theft of that. Isn't that robbery? How do they
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question, and that's provincial reporting system. And that's a good question to ask the officers when they're here on January 9th. As you recall, all the sergeant and staff sergeants will be here.
Okay.
I think that was the last piece of correspondence. Jason? Any other questions?
What about the one you got from Nemchi? You're congratulating the Reeve of Rocky View.
That was just addressed to me. I thought to show you people what I was.
That's how much he cares about us.
Yeah. Or maybe it's the other county. I don't know.
Well, it's not the first. I think last year it was Foothills that we were part of.
No.
This year it's Rocky View. He's trying to tell us something.
Yeah, where's- Okay.
I'll move that we accept the correspondence as presented.
This information. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Agricultural Service Board meeting minutes, October 4th, 2017. Age 67. Just because you weren't at the meeting doesn't mean you can't move it.
I move minutes as presented.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, 3.3A, request for decision, amendment of the master schedule of fees. Page 113. Any questions? What? I guess I'll wait for Colton to get set up. On 14 starts, Ben. Oh, yeah. On 13. What's our fee now, Colton?
There is no current fee
There is no
within the
current
fee schedule. It would likely revert if we haven't had a textual amendment since I've been here and well before that, an application for one. But other municipalities that don't have it in their fee schedule revert to their standard LUB redesignation fee, which is for $1,000 for us for a single lot residential, country residential.
Okay. Council's wishes. Donna?
I move that the council direct staff to amend the fee schedule to set the fee at $1,000 for applications for textual amendments to the land use bylaw.
Are there any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision. Request for decision. Municipal Planning Commission bylaw. Didn't we do that? Okay. Yes, you can, if you turn your mic on. I think we have a camera here that gets you when you're sitting.
There we go. Find the right spot here.
So what we're trying to do here with this new Municipal Planning Commission bylaw is to bring Wheatland County into compliance with the Municipal Government Act as of 1995. So what the Municipal Government Act requires is that if you're going to establish a municipal planning commission, that has to be done by bylaw. So it's optional, but if you're going to do it, it has to be done by bylaw. And the other thing that was lacking was you hadn't had a specific bylaw that designated subdivision approving authority. And so if the intention is that the Municipal Planning Commission is going to be the subdivision approving authority, that's also handled in this bylaw. And then the other portion of this bylaw, and we'll go through it section by section in case you have questions, is that it is also being specific with respect to the type of development authority that the MPC will have, which is referenced back to the land use bylaw. So it's effectively, it's going to be discretionary uses, other uses that are referred by the development officer. And I'm not sure with your DC bylaws, but conceivably council could delegate development approving authority for direct control bylaws to the MPC. And I want to take you through this bylaw because it is a bit new. And there's different ways to skin the proverbial cat. So this is a bylaw that I drafted, but there's room for you to make some changes, to have some questions, have some discussion, and make some tweaks to it. So I don't want you to think that this is carved in stone. There may be, I'll let you know if you want to do something that maybe isn't necessarily within the boundaries of the MGA. But anyway. So if you want to go to the body of the bylaw itself, I don't know what page it's on because I don't have page numbers on what I printed out for your agenda. What page is it? Do you know? Okay. It's right at the end. 119. So the preamble is pretty straightforward, and that just sets out your relevant references to provisions in the Municipal Government Act. Your definition section is in Part 3. Part 4 on page 3 establishes the MPC and specifies that the MPC is the county subdivision authority for the purposes of the Act and the regulations. So this is a bit of a change because right now council is your subdivision approving authority. So, but you sit as but council sits as MPC. So the change is going to be what you want to do with your MPC membership, right?
I think that's what we had when we were with Palliser Planning. They were our planners, and then we lost it when we went away from Palliser again, if I remember right. Palliser Planning. So I think we had it for a while, and then when we brought our own planner back in, we lost that because they were our planners. Say I could be wrong, but I'm sure, because there were some disgruntled councillors when they would bring some of their presentation to council and they wanted to make changes, and no, you can't make any change. This is if there's any changes, it had to go to the appeal board, not the council, and there was lots of disgruntled issues among some of the councillors because of that. So I'm not saying it was good or bad. I'm just saying that's what might have been some of the reason we lost.
So 4.2, again, makes MPC formally county subdivision authority. And 4.3 makes the MPC county development authority for the purposes of the MGA with respect to matters as prescribed in the land use bylaw to be determined by the MPC. And in your land use bylaw, under your section 3.2 dealing with development authority, the MPC is responsible with respect as the approving authority with respect to all development permit applications for discretionary uses and all applications for permitted uses which involve a variance request in excess of 10% of the relevant numerical value within all land use districts with the exception of direct control districts. unless otherwise specified in the DC district, and any other application referred to it by the development officer. So the kick here is going to be what you want to do with your membership. Because right now, council has been sitting as MPC, although you haven't had a bylaw actually establishing MPC, and council's the MPC, which is an option. The way that I've drafted it takes you a little bit one step away from that. So in part 5.1, the suggestion is that you have 5 members, 2 councillors, and 3 residents. And again, not carved in stone. This is subject to discussion and get some feedback also from your staff. The reason I like to see this kind of a makeup is I like to get council away from operational decisions. You are setting policy. You set your policy in your statutory plans. You set your policy in the land use bylaw. So that's where you set the rules. But in my opinion, I think council, especially in the years facing you, you're going to have bigger fish to fry than sitting there and talking about variance applications for side yards and height, and even with subdivision. But I will just say, there's some municipalities, Rocky View is one of them, where they have sort of divided responsibility on subdivision. So council is holding on to the bigger subdivision decision-making powers, but then they've delegated the first parcel outs and other pretty straightforward subdivisions to free up council time, because they were spending so much time just dealing with subdivision applications. I personally think it's an inefficient use of council time, and that's not really your job anymore, I think. I think you've got bigger policy decisions that you need to start focusing on. But that's not my call, that is your call. So the other thing that Part 5 deals with is terms as drafted, and these are all subject to change. Councillors would be for a maximum of 1 year, and then residents would be a maximum of 3 years, as long as not more than one resident member term expires in any 1 year. And the reason for that is continuity. It's kind of a disaster, I find, if your planning bodies have complete turnover 1 year, because nobody knows what they're doing, and there's nobody to say, okay, this was on the books, and here's where we are today. So that is an attempt to achieve some continuity. I see it a lot in MPC bylaws, but that's, again, food for thought. There's a maximum provision in 5.6 where members are eligible to serve for a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. So again, that is, you achieve continuity, but you also ensure that there's fresh blood that's being brought into the MPC on a regular basis. Members are appointed at the pleasure of council, that's in 5.7, and council may remove any member from the MPC at any time and for any reason. We also have established, and with some discussion with your staff, of members of the MPC, but they will be non-voting. They'll be there in an advisory capacity. So that will be your development officer, there'll be a planner, and the CAO. And as well, there is a later provision that basically authorizes MPC, this is in 7.9, to request any person or persons to attend your meetings in an advisory non-voting capacity. So you need some advice from an engineer, whatever it is, you can invite those people in. Article 6, this is dealing with quorum. And again, my idea is quorums consists of 3 voting members and 2 are resident members, and at no time shall councillors form the majority of the MPC at any meeting. That's very consistent with what the legislation prescribes for SDAB. But again, it's also, as I said earlier, it's a start to get council away from these operational planning matters. There's provision that MPC will adhere to the procedure bylaw, which of course council will set, and also that they will adhere to what you will ultimately be passing as your code of conduct bylaw. Let's see if there's anything else substantive that I want to bring to your attention for your thought. Oh, 7.6 specifies that the MPC may deliberate and make your decisions in meetings closed to the public, and that's in accordance with Section 197 of the Act. So Section 197, bear with me, I'll tell you the exact section. do. Thank you. So section 197, sub 2.1 provides that the MPC, subdivision authority, development authority, or SDAB may deliberate and make its decisions in meetings close to the public. So that is what the province has said you may do in planning development matters. The purpose of that is because planning and development is not a popularity contest. And what they want is people to sit and make good, solid planning decisions, even if those aren't necessarily the popular decision. And the other thing too is whenever you have got councillors sitting in these roles, you're sitting there in your capacity as a member of that commission, that board. You're not there representing, your division. You have to take off that hat. And I think the legislature was thinking, give people some space away from the scrutiny of the media and a gallery so they can have frank discussion and make the right decision and typically reach consensus. Bear with me if there's anything else. Functions and duties broadly are set out in Article 8, but there's no real magic to that. There's a provision that the CAO will appoint a county employee to be the MPC secretary in an official capacity. And the MPC secretary's roles are set out in section 9.2. But again, I think that's just reflective of what's already happening, but it's codifying it. So those are, I think, the substantive components of the bylaw. If you've got any questions, let me know.
So through the chair, in 9.2 E, where it says send out all decisions of the planning commission to relevant parties, is the council a relevant party? Do they get those decisions too? So that we, as a council, members of council that aren't on the board, have an understanding of what's happening when they get questioned by the public? The secretary shall carry out the following duties is just to send out all information after the decision has been made.
I don't know that council is specifically included in the MGA, and I defer to your planning staff if it's included as a party. I doubt it, but in the land use bylaw, but it could be included. It's your bylaw. So if you want council to be included in that circulation group, you could absolutely do that in this bylaw.
So there's a couple of forms we can do that in. The way I've seen it before is the minutes of the MPC would go to council for information. However, we could take it one step further and say the decisions of the MPC could be done in the letter that's sent to the applicant. That could be provided to council too. But I think the minutes in any other municipality I've worked at, that's what they do.
So how big is, what is considered under the purview, how big, what's a subdivision? Is it like 3 units, or is it could it be a small town?
It's driving me nuts. Okay, sorry. Okay, the definition of subdivision in both the Municipal Government Act and that section 616 sub EE means the division of a parcel of land by an instrument, and subdivide has a corresponding meaning, and it's a very similar definition in the Land Titles Act. So it's any time that you're taking a parcel of land and essentially creating new titles within that parcel. So it can be one new parcel.
And variances and things like that would all be part of that group, right?
Variances would be for development permits predominantly, and that is included in your land use bylaw. And right now, under the land use bylaw, under section 3.4, the MPC is responsible to handle variances on permitted uses for anything over 10%. Other than that, it would go to your development officer.
So the 3 residents would be just appointed by council, just as the Ag Service Board?
That's correct. At your organizational meeting, you would be appointing your resident members to MPC. And again, as drafted, and this could be changed, the term would be to a maximum of 3 years. And you try and stage it so that not more than 2 of the residents' terms expire in one year to achieve that continuity.
Any other questions?
So, sorry again, so it would be up to council to make sure it be fair representation over all of the 3 residents, because like, I'm only worried if there's 3 residents of Muirfield, let's say, that's majority, and they don't have a lot of voice in anything other than what their issues are.
The way that you appoint your members to a board can be done in a variety of ways. You can seek to be achieving, some equality of representation from across your municipality, but you can also look at this from a discipline perspective. Do we want to have someone with an engineering background sitting? Do you want someone that has a development background sitting? You can choose those kind of qualities and criteria for your board members to make sure that you've got qualified individuals sitting and considering these kind of applications. So it's up to you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Donna.
I'm just curious, how do you find those residents?
Well, that is the magic, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's perhaps more difficult when you're out in a rural municipality where you've got a lower population base to draw from than if you're in Calgary or even if you're in Rocky View, where you've got just more people to choose from. But at the end of the day, it's going to have to be council's decision. I think you can set what your preferred criteria is, but at the end of the proverbial day, you're going to have to take a look at who's applying, who's the best choice out of those applicants.
No other questions?
Yeah, I'd feel more comfortable if it was the other way around, 2 residents and 3 councillors, just personally.
Makes sense. Any other thoughts?
I'm trying to wrap my head around just how much control we're giving up here. And I understand but I don't know, I can't get in my head, can these 5 people get us into trouble? I'm answerable to my constituents. I've got 3 people out there that are not answerable to anybody, and I'm just trying to figure out, are we increasing our liability here?
Through the Reeve, I would say not when you're doing your job right, because MPC can't change use. And under the Municipal Government Act, when it comes to subdivision, they can only approve subdivisions that conform with your statutory plans. So if your MDP is up to speed, and if you've got solid area structure plans in place, those are the rules. But that's where council is sitting in a policy perspective, in a policy role, and you're setting the rules, and then you're leaving it then to MPC to apply those rules. So I don't have a problem or a concern with council letting go a little bit and stepping back and sticking to the policy role, as long as those documents are thorough, which I think your MDP is quite recent, and I think your area structure plans they're currently under review. the MGA and the subdivision development regulations set rules and boundaries for how an MPC or other subdivision approving authority approves subdivision and mandatory considerations that they have to take into account. So I don't, to answer the question, will this increase your liability? No, it will not, in my opinion.
So through the chair, then these are exactly the questions that come up the last time. But it's no different than we hire one CAO and we trust the CAO to look after everything that goes out there. And if something goes wrong, it comes back to us. It's the same way. We've got a committee of people out there dealing with the rules that we put into place, and they have to deal with those rules. If they're not the right rules, we're the ones that are responsible for putting them in place. And if there's something going on that isn't right, we have the right to remove them and put somebody else in there if things are going wrong. And there's also an appeal process that's tied to all of that. So it works if council lets it work.
One more comment through the Reeve. The other thing that I think needs to happen, and not just with Wheatland County, but everywhere, is you need to have a training day for people that are, whether it's council or it's MPC, whatever, it's going to be it's now mandatory for SDAB, to have a training day about planning and development, and to have walk people through your MDP and the big ASPs and your land use bylaw, what the requirements are of Part 17 of the MGA and the subdivision regulations. So people are informed when they start making these decisions that are impacting how private landowners are able to use their land. So that's something else to think about that council can also, that's an additional step, is have mandatory training for these folks.
Donna?
Do you eliminate public hearings?
Okay. Is MPC having public hearings right now? I have some MPCs that have informal public hearings, and I tell them not to do that. So, good. No, the public hearing component is predominantly for council. So you have to have public hearings before you amend or pass a land use bylaw, before you amend or pass a statutory plan. But again, that's you folks. That's when you have your public hearing. And of course, SDAB, the appeal body, has a public hearing. But there's no mandatory statutory public hearing required for development permit applications or subdivision.
Anything else? Thoughts?
If we were to approve this bylaw, I mean, as a new council, I've read over the land use, and I wouldn't be comfortable setting 5 members right now because I don't agree with some of the land use bylaws. So, I mean, if we were to pass this, I'd be wanting to look at the land use bylaw right away.
I guess a comment to that, if you like, we should look at it right away anyway if you have concerns with the land use bylaw, not because of the subdivision authority, but if you have concerns over it, that should be brought up sooner than later.
Through the chair, the land use bylaw is not written in stone. It can be amended at any time with this commission in place or not, and if it's amended, the commission follows what the bylaw says. If things aren't working, it's up to us to make that change. They're just following the regulations. It happens that in the past, a lot of times when the council gets involved, the politics gets involved in it, and you end up voting against your own bylaws because of a personal, a neighbor issue or something else, and it's happened. And you should never vote against your own bylaw. You should either table it or set it aside until you go back and review and take a look at your bylaws and see what's wrong that you have to vote against it. You should never vote against your own bylaw.
Any other questions?
Would the education or training piece that you spoke of, would you integrate that into the bylaw, or would that just be separate?
You could make it mandatory that training take place within so many days of the organizational meeting to make sure it doesn't slip through the cracks. But, and I'm also We've got a code of conduct bylaw drafted, but I think that's not ready to come forward. But there is a mandatory requirement in the draft that committee members, which would include your MPC, attend training sessions as offered by Wheatland County. So then it would just be up to administration of when to schedule that training.
Okay. Any other questions? Fears? No? Go ahead.
I've worked within this parameters in the past, and it takes a lot of onus off of, like you said, we set the bar, the general overseer, and then they follow it to the T, because that's all they can do. Whereas, like you said, we get that influence. I like this. I think it's a good thing. And it's a little scary to jump into, but it works. It's democracy at its best.
I have one more comment, Mr. Reeve. Regardless of if council decides you want this form of bylaw or with some tweaks made, please know you need a bylaw that establishes your MPC and sets its responsibilities one way or the other. So whatever you do today, don't just leave it in limbo. Thank you very much.
Okay. If we were to pass this today, it sounds like nothing would change till next organizational anyway.
We would have to talk about when it would become effective, because that's a good point with respect to when you start to appoint people. So we would have to talk about when council wants it to be effective, or if you want to take it out of order and appoint people for the initial term subsequent to obviously the 2017 organizational meeting.
Right. 2018.
Prior to the 2018, subsequent to the 2017 organizational meeting and prior to the 2018 organizational meeting.
One plus I see to it, right now, if we want to have a country residential subdivision, council hears the bylaw, here's a public hearing, and we grant zoning. But that still does not give the subdivision. It has to have a subdivision. So if we had the 3 residents, like it says in here, that's another check of that, because those 3 people were not at the public hearing. And they have to convince at least one of them, people that weren't involved in it, to grant the subdivision. So it's almost like a check and balance in some ways too.
So through the chair, if we were to go through second and third reading of this bylaw, if we waited till organizational next year, to me, that's too long. If we're going to put this in place, we have to put a criteria in place for nominating the public, and that's going to take a couple of months to get that into place and get the notices out and get the people coming back in. So I could see if it was put through today, it would probably be March, April before it would come into effect anyway. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, in regards to that, it could basically be a matter of as soon as 3 members are available from the public, following advertising, then it comes into effect. As soon as you appoint those members, it comes into effect. That seems to work the best. And then again, at the organizational meeting, then there'd be a reappointment of the members on council.
I'd even like to add to that some training was provided, being that it's a whole new idea for us, that those people will be brought up training, and then we.
Yeah, so what the plan would be to bring back Joanne, and she would probably do training with the whole group, all 5, the 2 council members as well as the other public members.
Through the chair, I'm assuming that some of those members could only be in position for 6 months if you're staggering the positions, because you'll have your reappointments again in October. So unless you made the first one 2, 3, and depending on when, because if it was done at the organizational, that's October. So you might be able to change that a little bit so that the ones coming on at least get a full year or year and a half anyways, so that the first ones are 2 and 3 year appointments rather than 1 year.
This is a matter of process. If we pass this bylaw now, then council would decide when it gets implemented.
Alan's going to jump in if I get this wrong. It would be, my thought is what council should be doing right now is if you want changes, that you give administration direction to make changes to the bylaw and bring it back to you, as opposed to giving it second and third reading today. Wait till those amendments have been made, and let them bring it back to you at your next meeting.
Okay.
Counter to
The
that.
question I wanted more was, when we get third reading on it, no matter what shape it takes, the implementation, it's right away. But if we wanted 3 members, if that's the way it's going to go, council decides when we implement them, or does it have to be in the bylaw?
What I would suggest is that you include the wording. We could include a transitional provision that allows for the appointment of members in these staggered terms outside of an organizational meeting. We just include a bit of a transitional provision as an amendment, and then that would help kind of deal with the practicalities.
Okay. That makes sense? Yeah. Any other questions? So I'm thinking. That's right. Right. We just had a report and we're discussing. Now, if you want, we can do first reading and second reading and third and so on, or we can want any changes to it. We have to direct staff to change it and bring it back. And it's not written anywhere that we have to approve it today. We could wait till next month, or but you would like to see it passed before next election?
Well, if council's willing, I'll put first reading on the table so we get it started anyways.
Okay.
That sets the timeline up and puts it in motion anyways. If they want to go further than that, that's fine. I'll put first reading on.
First reading. Does everyone understand? Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Is there any amendments, or does council wish to do second reading now or bring it back? Tom?
Can we can, next meeting, we can do second and third reading, all in one go? Thank you.
Is that Alan?
Yeah, that'll work fine, but do you want the amendment that
Yeah.
legal counsel had suggested?
I
To do
think
with
the
the staggered
amendment,
terms?
yeah. Staggering terms.
And we'll also, I guess, indicate which division counselors would be the first 2.
Okay.
That doesn't have to be part of the bylaw, just for information, so that'll help maybe for everybody to understand how it might work as an option.
Okay. Is there any other amendments you'd like to see? Okay, we'll wait till next month and see what you bring back. Thank you. Thanks, Joanne. And we have a 2 o'clock appointment. Mr. Sousa, project manager, please.
We good? We're live. We're live. My name is Jimmy Souza, and I'm the project manager at the Lakes of Muirfield in Lyalta, Alberta. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Anyway, I'm coming here today because of, I guess, a comment that I made in front of some residents at Muirfield, in front of Councillor Kester, and in front of Councillor Clausen at what was a town hall meeting for the residents of Muirfield. In that meeting, I said, son of a gun, if nothing's happened by November, then we're gonna take matters into our own hands. So I just want to expand on that real quickly, very briefly, as to what I was referring to when I said those words. I got to give you a little bit of a history where 3 years ago when we found out about this problem, I was approached by a developer from across the road who said, listen, you have a problem and I have a new development coming on. So I think I can help you with your situation. And what you can do in turn is you can help me with this. And what that was deferring some costs for him from building a water treatment plant. So water into your home, and he would solve our sewage treatment plant issues with water leaving the home. Sounded like a match made in heaven as far as I was concerned. At the time, he was going through what was a concept plan, going through this, going through that, within these walls of this building here. It was about a year later, he got his area structure plan approved within these walls. I had a bunch of Muirfield residents attending that, and we all thought, hallelujah, our problem is solved. None of us, not through no fault of any of our own. That never happened. So he did get his area structure plan approved, but when it came time for his subdivision application, that's when we ran into challenges. So that November deadline that I put on, because to me, and I believe to staff, it makes sense to have one treatment plant in Lyalta servicing the whole of Lyalta, and one sewage treatment plant servicing the whole of Lyalta. That to me makes sense. To have one on one side of Range Road 264 and one on the other makes no sense at all. So that's why we always thought that this was a good solution for everything. I was in here a month ago, just like all of you guys were, when young Colton threw up on the big screen 29 things that have yet to be accomplished. I have to, at that point, stand up and take notice. Wow. Is this thing really going to happen? Prior to that, seeing those 29 items, even with me watching from the sidelines from my office, what's going on over there, I still was looking for solutions, because the other thing that developer did was he went and worked in parallel while he was waiting for his subdivision application. He was going in parallel with Alberta Environment to get an approved sanitary system in place, which he did, by the way. And council was kind enough to give him road right-of-ways and all the things he would need to get that system in place. The problem with that system, though, is it only makes sense if you're servicing 4,000 homes. It's very, very expensive. It's very costly. There's no way of scaling that system. So in other words, like our treatment plant, we built a treatment plant for Muirfield. When he wants to add on to it, we simply put more trains in the building. We widen the footprint of the building, and you can scale it very cost effectively. With this system that he's got in Cataland, it's an 18-kilometer pipeline with lagoons and pivots, and it ends up being $20 million just to service 130 homes at Muirfield. The finances doesn't make economic sense. So and not to mention the other factor in that is that the relationships that were built along the way with Catalans I'm talking about are not between myself and the owners of Catalan. Those are with the other developer across the road. So even if and I know you're saying, but Jimmy, you're great at relationships. Thank you for that. But that's not the case here, because no matter what, it's just not cost effective. It really is not. So what I've done is I've brought on my own team, okay? And two of the members are sitting out there right now. A gentleman that you can see, the good-looking guy. Mike, raise your hand. Yep, that's Mike. Mike was responsible for the $20 million add-on, the addition that was done at the Langdon Sewage Treatment Plant. Okay, Mike and I have been working together for 10 years. Mike did all of the sanitary system for me at the Lakes of Muirfield. So this man knows his crap, if you will. He's that good. So he's now a member of our team. His company currently operates the water treatment plant, water into the home, along with Peter, his partner. I've also been in communication with a name that I know you're going to know, Ben, and I know you're going to know, Glenn, and that's Erwin Braun. The problem that I've had over the years is not treating the wastewater. That's not a problem. It's what do you do with the treated water once it's treated? And even though we've got a canal that runs through our site, looks like a great place to dump water into, that's what happens all summer long, the perception of dumping effluent onto the people downstream is not going to fly. So I've gone through 3 general managers now at the WID who have no. So Erwin Braun has recently retired and he's become a consultant. So I've asked him, do you think you can consult for me with the company that you used to work for? I said to him, I said, can I use your name tomorrow? Because I met with him yesterday. Can I use your name? Because I know you're going to get a phone call from somebody. So you guys can do your own homework. So between Erwin Braun, Mike, I always have a hard time pronouncing his last name, and the developer who's ready, willing, and able to write a check, we now have an avenue that we can go and we can pursue, where within the next couple of months, we'll do what's called a pre-design. We'll figure out exactly, to go to your question, Glenn, can we do this on site? Yes. And in fact, I was introduced to someone 2 weeks ago where they said, you need to go see the treatment plant that we built at a development called Watermark. It's up by Bears Paw. And I went there, and there's this facility that looks like a home. It looks literally like a single-family home. It had all the characteristics, the roof lines, the siding, the aggregate driveway. You would never know it was a treatment plant. I was a little shocked, and I thought, well, I know that there are setbacks from sewage treatment plant. There was a 0 setback. There was a lot for sale right next door to this facility. I asked Alberta Environment. I said, hey, I was with Craig Reich in his office. How did that plant get approved? Like in a community like that, where there's a $4 million house right across the street, there's a lot for sale. He said, as long as the municipality will relax the setback, of which Rocky View County did, then we're fine with it. We're fine with it. So I guess what I'm saying is, between the team that we now have assembled and we're ready to go to work, and these walls in here, we're going to need some help from council. Not just, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? Because I want to be done with this. I honestly do. But if I think with a few council members, with Mike, with Erwin, and maybe me on the side just writing poems, we can probably get something done here really quickly, really efficiently. So it's not, no one is in here requesting money from this county. That's not what's being said here. That's taken care of. No one is in here requesting, I'm requesting a little bit of help, right? In other words, when I did go to Strathmore, when I did go to Rocky View, when I did go to Alberta Environment, if I could have someone from the municipality that I'm trying to do the representing, standing alongside of me, I might have been taken a little more seriously, where the people in the municipality, wow, they want this fixed as well. I'm not saying any of those would have come to fruition, but I'm saying it would have helped. So if I can get that kind of help from you guys, the kind of help from Mike, I think we're well on. I think 2018 is going to be the year. I honestly believe that. I believe that with my heart and soul. So am I coming to you with a, we got to, no, but I'm saying to you, don't care about what's going on across the street, because I saw those 29 things. Having said that, what we're proposing to do is scalable, and it makes sense economically. So if and when you guys ever decide to approve that development, we can add on to this system. So whatever we do, we're going to use smart construction practices, and we're going to say, okay, this is the footprint we need, but we know we're going to need a little extra land because we'll expand this facility, we'll expand the reservoirs, we'll do whatever we need to do. So not cutting off the guy across the street, if he ever does come on stream, but saying, take your time. You don't need to do anything with that thing over there if you don't want. I mean, personally, it doesn't matter to me what happens over there. We're gonna go down our own little path with our own engineers and our own team, and we're gonna fix this problem. And we're gonna do it in an economic way where the residents of Muirfield, their bills are relaxed a little bit. Because if we just did the approved system that's in place, they'd probably be paying more for their wastewater than they are now. So that's what I've got for you. It's positive. Take that in a positive light. There's a face you've never seen before. Not on my behalf, anyway. That's the guy who's going to work with Erwin Braun. And you can call Erwin. And Mike, I don't know if you want to say something to give these people the confidence that I clearly cannot, but maybe you want to say something. If you want to ask him his credentials, if you want to ask questions of Mike, his qualifications, what he's done in the past, I don't know if that's where council wants, but, or if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to address them.
Any question? Ben, you got
Oh,
one.
I see a light.
I got a question for you, Jimmy. Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, kind sir.
When you're talking about this, it's a nice idea. But again, you're asking us, it's dependent on something that we do. And the question Glenn asked was, is there room to put the plant there under our bylaw the way it sits right now? So if we don't relax it for some reason, and it'll be on sound advice from somebody, whether we do or we don't, and we don't relax them, and maybe I should be asking the engineer, is there still room out there to put this plant in place that you're talking about?
I don't know why the engineer would be able to answer that, because it comes down to the number of lots that we're giving up, right? So if you don't relax them, I think there's a typically Alberta Environment, I don't know what you guys have, has a 300-meter setback. But with a precedent that's already set, I don't know why you wouldn't. What that would do, no. Probably not on site. So what that would do is that would add an extra step to the process of going and acquiring land and now getting into another negotiation. I'm here today to try and find a faster way of achieving what we all have wanted for 4 years now.
So then my other question is, if it's relaxed,
Yep.
I'm not saying if it's relaxed.
Yep.
And what's the timeline from start to finish?
Okay, that might be a question for the
And
engineer.
if it isn't relaxed, what's the timeline from start to finish?
2 years later, if it isn't relaxed. I made that up. I'm just trying to move this thing along. I honestly don't know. I mean, you're a farmer. I'd be knocking on people's doors saying, hey, I need to buy some of your land. Okay, my $2,000 farmland, an acre, is available to you at $200,000, and then we get into that negotiation. So the Alberta Environment Approval process, from what I understand, and again, I'm not an engineer, I've never gone through but I watched the gentleman across the road from us who had that 18-kilometer pipeline and lagoons and pivots. I watched that approval process get done in 13 months. That's how long it took that. With this system where it's an on-site treatment facility, by the way, so we're treating the effluent right on site, $3, $4, $5, $6 million plant. Those approvals, from what I understand, might not even take as long. But I don't want to sit here and say, oh, it's a 6-month approval process. I don't want to do that.
Through the chair, if the approvals come, hypothetically, if the approvals come through in 4 months, because it's what's historically done, and you get relaxation, what's the timeline for that plant to be up and operating?
Mike?
Most of you probably don't know me. My name is Mike Scalia, and I own an engineering company called Simflow Systems. And as Jimmy stated, we've done the upgrades on the Langdon wastewater treatment plant, and we've worked up north in wastewater treatment plants. We're currently doing one just outside the city in Rockyview. You know, in terms of approvals and that sort of thing, and this is kind of the reason that we do the process that we do, is we come out with, as Jimmy was saying, a pre-design report. Because, I mean, at this point, the only thing that we know is that we have to build a wastewater treatment plant, and we have to get it approved by Alberta Environment. What's going to be in that wastewater treatment plant? Well, some sort of wastewater treatment plant process. But the pre-design report is designed to address all of those issues. So how big is the plant going to be? Where is it going to be situated? Do we need relaxations? Do we not need relaxations? What kind of process are we going to use? In terms of relaxations, I mean, I would imagine that one of the biggest concerns the county would have is they would need some assurances in terms of odors and in terms of noise. And certainly that can all be handled these days. I mean, to give you a approval timeline, at this point and be very definitive about it. I don't know that it's possible. Certainly after the pre-design report's done, we've got a path and we can say, okay, this is where we're going and this is how fast we're going with it. The pre-design report gets shared with Alberta Environment so that we get a sense of whether they're going to buy into that. And it would certainly get shared with staff here and we'd do a presentation in front of council if that was required. You know, this whole process is really has to be kind of a step-by-step process in order to make it efficient. You don't want to get to the end of the thing and say, great, we've got this whole thing designed, what do you think? And then all of a sudden people say, well, I'm not going to give you a relaxation, or I don't like this, or anything else sort of thing. So in general though, I mean, I think what Jimmy was saying, I don't expect probably any more than 12 or 13 months in approval, and hopefully shorter. It'd be great to get into the ground with the sewage treatment plant, you know, perhaps late fall. I really don't see it any sooner than that. But certainly in 2018, we'd really be attempting to try to get into the ground with the sewage treatment plant. So I hope that answers your question, does it, or kind of? Okay.
Any other questions?
I got one more for Jimmy. You say the developer's got his checkbook out and he's got his pen over it waiting. We've heard that before. Is the money going to be there when it's needed, or is that going to be one of the holdups?
I've been instructed that I can answer that question, yes. Oh, I've been instructed that I can answer that question, yes. Because it's not my checkbook or my pen.
Because it's Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. One of the other things I'd like to invite council to do is take a field trip to, if that's possible, because I think we did that before, did we not? Remember at the early stages of this thing, Ben? I think we all got on a bus or a van or something, and actually visit that treatment plant that I'm talking about. Visit that community so that we can all walk around it. I can schedule a meeting with the company that built it and go inside it, to just so you have the comfort, if we do come to you and ask for relaxation, that you can have the comfort to say, wow, this is not what because both Hassan, the developer, and I walked into this plant. He was in town for a day and we visited this plant. And I just think it would be a great idea for you guys to see what we saw and today's technology and what can be done and what can be achieved with people like this, you know, steering the reins.
Jimmy?
Yes.
When is the pre-design report going to be finished?
What time is it now, Mike? How quickly can you? No, I'm going to let him answer that. That's not a. I don't want to put too much pressure on young Mike.
Likely March, April, probably. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Scott?
I'm assuming the location is going to probably be in the northeast corner, where the lift station is. I would imagine.
On which corner?
The northeast corner of the subdivision?
Northeast.
Probably in the cell 9.
Yeah, it would be within cell 9, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Just
correct.
so council's aware of that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'm familiar with the plant that you're talking about. I've been in it before, and it's pretty amazing. But it's a good thing for people to see.
Okay.
Any other questions? So your ask is you would like a member, somebody from the county to help you present when you're talking to people you have to sell this to, or to environment, or just what would be the role of this person?
Yeah, I think, great question, Glenn. I think that I'm trying to build a team now, right? And this is the engineering part of the team. We've got Erwin Braun, who worked with the WID for many, many years on a consultant basis as well. We've got the team that supplies the money. I think it would be prudent to have someone within these walls and the municipality that we're trying to do this, to have some sort of a representation as well, for all kinds of reasons, but mostly so that you guys can stay in the loop, so that I don't have to come back here every couple of months and give an update, because you guys would have real-time statistics on what's happening. I think it's a good idea all around. No?
So your idea of this person within this walls
Don't say it if you don't mean it.
So your idea is just a liaison from your group to staff and council?
Absolutely.
On the progress? You're not looking for somebody to do technical work or anything?
No, not at all, not at all, Glenn. It's mostly just for lines of communication to make sure that, we're working collectively towards a common goal, really. I work really well with young Colton and Angie, and to have one of you guys as well would be amazing. I think it would just help the process along.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? I'm thinking you're getting to the place, I'm thinking we should have been at a long time ago.
Did I not explain why it took so long to get here?
Yeah, you did.
We had a solution. There was one approved by Alberta Environment. When I saw those 29 items, Glenn, that's what spawned this, oh my goodness, that thing's not getting approved. Or it's certainly not getting approved. When the area structure plan was approved, I mean, you have to admit, that was a huge step. Like, okay, wow, here's our solution. Then with all this other, so I half agree with you, the top half.
Okay, but moving forward,
Yep.
if we were to put, say, a counselor on that board would be fine. But as far as supposing if we have to do setbacks or go visiting a plant, I'd be much comfortable waiting till you get your report done and just seeing if that's actually the recommendation.
Yeah,
Or
I agree.
whatever
I
the
agree with that.
recommendation is, then go look at that instead of what it could be. But I would concentrate more on the recommendation and see if that's what we want.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, I'm not here to waste anyone's time. I don't think we should jump in a van tomorrow, but once Mike's done with his preliminary
Yeah.
and everything looks good and Alberta Environment's given us a thumbs up, at that point, I think it's worth, as Councilor Clausen said, he's seen the facility and it is like, wow, I didn't know you could do this. I didn't know you could. So, yeah, I agree with that comment. Yep.
Okay, Ben, your light's on?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
last comment, I guess, is I would strongly oppose having a council sit as a member of your team because it puts that councillor in one hell of a precarious position when something comes back to this table.
Maybe I used the wrong expression when I said a member of the
Well,
team.
you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I see a conflict.
You've
Yep.
got members
Yep.
here that you're
Yep.
working with.
Yep.
That's who you should be working with. Council has we have another job up here, so I would strongly oppose that side of it.
Okay,
I
so-
don't mind
so-
having you come in here once in a while.
Okay. But maybe a member of staff comes to some of these things with us, you're saying, so that's how you would stay updated. Yeah, however you guys would see fit, I'm totally fine with that. As long as someone within these walls are working alongside us so that the people that we're talking to and trying to present this to, saying, well, at least the municipality is behind what you're trying to do, and it's not just some guy who doesn't use all the letters trying to convince me to do something that I shouldn't do, that the county may not want to do. At least it answers that question in the moment, that the county is on board. That's all I'm saying. So however you see fit, I agree with you, that a councilor might cause some sort of a conflict. And although you got some good ones. You got some good ones. Hello.
Well, I believe last time when across the road needed approval from Alberta Environment to come to council and we provided a letter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I'm seeing where you're going. I'm thinking you're looking for, so you don't have to come in here every month and give a report. And if you were to report to staff or staff feel comfortable and go see the progress and let staff do the reporting is the goal, I'm
Yep.
thinking. I'll have to ask our CIO, do we have anybody time for that or?
Well, typically, the spokesman for the development would speak to the development.
Yeah.
So this would be an anomaly, I would suggest, from what we've done in the past.
This whole thing has been an anomaly, no? I mean, anomaly, no? I mean, this is different than what goes on in this county, right?
Yeah, it puts us in a spot though, to remain.
I don't know, young Colton and I get along
How
very
about-
well.
How about you still keep working with staff the way you are?
Okay.
And come back and do a report in a couple months whenever staff feel like it. And
Sure.
I don't mind you coming in every once in a while.
They say it, but I don't think they're serious. Can't even look at them right now. No, you know, and I'm totally fine with that.
You know, we gotta
I would
remain-
continue to work with
Yeah.
Colton or Angie or whoever you guys want, trying to keep them as real time as I possibly can. It's an email or two, right? And then you guys can be put up. You don't have a problem with me talking to counselors, or do you? Or
Well, what the
not
problem
without
is,
wasting their
yeah.
time?
If Colton, say, I'm just using, comes and gives us a report, and we have questions of him, it's not fair or right that council's questioning him on something he can't maybe provide an answer for. We can't hold
Okay.
him up to be accountable. But when the developer comes in, if it's you or whoever, yeah, you can be held accountable and get it. I think that's where I'm coming from,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
It's not you per se or staff, but it's just the process to keep it accountable, transparent, and people are trying and working, yeah.
I think that's fair. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And especially what you guys voted on earlier today, we now know we have a target. We know there's a finite number now on the map. This is how many. After that, don't come asking me for any favors. Totally on board with that.
Okay, and if you need help with approvals or anything, come in, give us a talk and see what we can do.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Okay.
I had to run from one country. Don't make me run from Canada. Thank you guys very much. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Any other questions or? Motion accept his information. Jason?
I move to accept information as presented.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Wastewater Carsland.
Mr. Chairman, can we have a 10-minute recess?
Sure can.
Okay, thank you.
10-minute recess. Mike, whenever you're ready.
So, Mr. Chairman, this discussion is just follow-up from this morning's discussion with Ms. Bymuth in regards to the development of Carsland.
Okay.
So in there, it was talked about a regional development, including the new ASP for the Goldfinch development, as well as Speargrass, as well as Carsland, as well as potentially that development and other developments in the area. So staff are going to provide a bit of information in regards to what they've done on this. And a recommendation is shown on the bottom. There's a draft motion that's put forward. So I'll let Mike go through that information.
Thanks, Alan. So through the chair, just as Alan has explained there, we've been looking at regional systems for a while in this area. I think it makes sense. We have a number of different developments coming forward and have been for the last number of years, and all proposing their own individual wastewater systems, water systems. Just like we saw in the regional system we have up north, it makes more sense to centralize the hub locations of these treatment facilities and distribute the treated water or collect the affluent sewage into one central location. Makes it much cheaper in the future. We did a lot of analysis with that Rockyford system. Just to future upgrades, finding qualified operators, that sort of thing. Overall, big picture, it costs more to begin with, but big picture, long term, it's a cheaper option to do these regional systems. We got to look at these private systems, just like we did in Muirfield, where we have there's a possibility that we may be asked to take them over in the future. So we can't say, well, it's a private industry, it's a privately owned system, we don't have to worry about it. We have to keep in mind that even though we don't have initial ownership of them, we could be asked to take them over in the future, just like we saw this morning with that system right there. I think the intent is that it's a private system that would be potentially transferred over to the county. So we did a little bit of analysis here, planning and transportation work together on this breakdown here. So it's just kind of a real broad picture because we don't have the numbers, we don't have the details yet as far as what we're looking at for location, densities going in there, that sort of thing. So we've got together a proposal from our engineering consultant to to provide this offsite levy bylaw and infrastructure study, which will basically look at the site, look at what kind of development we're planning in the area, and what kind of treatment facilities we'd need for those densities. And then basically what an offsite levy bylaw would put into place is that every lot, every development, every subdivision that goes into that site would pay towards the construction of the ultimate plant or treatment facility. So we'd put an actual cost, either it's per lot or per acre, to a value on what percentage they're going to be paying towards this final system. That way the county isn't really responsible for making the overall payments on this, and it's put back to the developer, which it should. Developers should fund their development, including the wastewater and water systems. So this offsite levy bylaw gives an avenue towards allowing the county to put restrictions or conditions on the upcoming approvals that go towards the overall end result of treatment of these systems. So we see, basically we're looking at the existing water treatment plant would be upgraded. So if you look at the other side of your map there, we just kind of have an overall, this is large scale, it may be scaled down from here. This is big picture stuff. We're looking at long-term development on this. It would definitely be staged. So we see a price of $14.5 million to upgrade that water treatment plant we have in Speargrass right now. And then we'd have to, we have lagoons there. We're looking at more of a, right now, a membrane treatment system for the wastewater, which is big, I guess, overall development, overall build out of around 18 million. So there's some large numbers that we're looking at here for the whole size, but you can see it's a huge area we're looking to develop too. So this levy will be broken down into stages, looking at which developments are closer, ready to go, and tying them in initially and having them pay for the first stages of this treatment plant. So I guess that's the overall look at it, and if council's okay with it, we can go forward.
Thanks, Mike. Are there questions? Tom?
Yeah, is there, when you're going to do this, get the engineers involved, looking at the feasibility, is there any way we can look at the feasibility of running a line up to the Canada Highway there, you know, to take care of that industrial, like, and then maybe include them into an offsite levy?
Currently, there is an offsite levy on the industrial, highway industrial. Add another offsite levy on there? I refer to our lawyer to say, I doubt that could be done.
No.
That would have to be a local improvement.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if we can tie into, because as I see going forward, if it ever gets developed, sewer and water is going to be an issue with people that are using that, and I'm just wondering if we can incorporate it into what's happening here, because just no different than the regional Wheatland Regional Corporation.
Anything's possible. My suggestion to council at this time would be, there is a motion at the bottom. We're asking for some funds out of continuity operating reserve to do the offsite levy bylaw for this area to start with. And once you see the results of that, we can incorporate the next step in there if you want to do that. Rather than try to put it all together and then we have to finance it all. We can do it either way. But it's going to be a lot more costly than $80,000 to do an offsite levy bylaw if we want to do it for the whole area in that county, side of the county. So we were looking at this conglomeration of development initially.
Maybe more of what I was getting at is there a feasibility of using down the road, using whatever we're doing, upgrading up in like wastewater and all that kind of stuff? Is there a feasibility of tying something further north into that system? Just
Likely there is, yes. Yes.
Any other questions?
I was going to refer to our legal counsel to talk a little bit about the offsite levy bylaw.
Okay.
And how that works, just for anyone that's.
So because offsite levy bylaws might be might have heard of them, but you probably haven't had to, unless you're a previous councillor, probably haven't had to actually pass one. Thought I'd just give you kind of the Coles Notes versions of what is required with an offsite levy bylaw. So an offsite levy bylaw is a levy that can be imposed through new development or subdivision approvals. You're going to have to pass a bylaw. There's been some changes to the scope of offsite levies that was passed as part of the 2017 amendments, and we now have the offsite levy regulation that has also been updated. So it used to be that offsite levies could only be collected for hard infrastructure, so roads, stormwater, wastewater, potable water. And now there's a new category for soft services, so recreation, fire halls, that kind of thing. Yeah, excellent. I think that's a great idea. One thing to be mindful, and this we will deal with down the road, is when it comes to that second category, the second basket, the soft service offsite levies, there is an appeal mechanism built in now where developers can appeal those offsite levies to the municipal government board. They can only do that with that second basket with the soft services. But I want just to kind of highlight a few things for your thought process. There's been a significant scope of judicial consideration of the principles and criteria that have to be implemented when it comes to offsite levy bylaws. The founding underlying principle is that it has to be a fair allocation of cost, which means that you have to, and this is part of the engineers, I'm the wet blanket when I sit with engineers. I'm working on 3 offsite levy bylaws right now, and the engineers just love me because I make them use their words too much. Because one of the things that has to happen, the courts have said, is you have to do an analysis between the benefit to existing community and new community. It used to be that everyone thought, oh, development just carries 100% of the cost of new infrastructure, upgraded infrastructure, and that's not the case. Sometimes that is the result, but there has to be an analysis done. Benefit to existing community can even be improved service, more reliability, that kind of thing. So that has to be specifically addressed. The other thing is, I had one municipality, like literally last month, that thought they could just dump all of their projects into one basket, do the math, and there's your offsite levy. That doesn't work either. You have to separate it out by project, and there has to be a benefiting area. And if this is going to be regional, another option that may come up is whether you do an intermunicipal offsite levy bylaw with Rocky View or whomever. That has now been codified as an option in the Municipal Government Act. The other thing I just also want to plant as a question is traditionally offsite levies were done on acreage. But that's not always the fairest way of doing the allocation. So as an example, and this is on a website, it's on Rocky View's website if you want to take a look at their water and wastewater offsite levy bylaw. They were one of the first municipalities in Alberta to do their levy calculation on capacity. So capacity allocation. So that's something to think about when you're talking about water and wastewater, as something that that's an angle the engineers can take. Because in Rocky View, as an example, and this was very much driven by the commercial and industrial development by Balzac, is it was recognized that you might have somebody on a very small footprint that uses a ton of water. Okay, and someone like residential development, which might be on a much larger footprint, uses perhaps a lower capacity. And they were very much driven about their treatment plant upgrades and how much allocation do we have and what's going to trigger upgrades. So they went to that model. So that's just something to think about. Let me see. There's mandatory requirements in the regulation where there's going to have to be consultation with stakeholders, and everything that happens with respect to this offsite levy development, the analysis, all has to be extremely transparent because people need to understand what goes into that number. And typically, if the developers understand that this is fair, you're not going to see, and I'm knocking on wood, you're not going to see a challenge. I mean, I'm going to use Rocky View as an example because that water and wastewater, new offsite levy bylaw, I think increased levies, I don't know, by hundreds of percentage. What was a nominal number in Rocky View became an extraordinary number in Rocky View, and they were not challenged. So this is something for you to think about down the road. Relevant sections in the Municipal Government Act are section 648, 649. And if you go into Alberta Queen's Printer, there's the offsite levies regulation that you can find under the Municipal Government Act. And I'm also going to be sending a summary to Angie, just reiterating the criteria for offsite levies, as well as a new criteria that has to be taken into consideration for the soft infrastructure, which is a new section 6 in the regulations. So just little flags of information. And I'm going to get that summary out to Angie. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but it'll be in January at the latest.
Thank you. You mean next year? Any questions?
So just a couple other points, Mr. Chairman. Currently, there's $624,940.16 in the operating contingency reserve. So there's adequate funding to fund this project. Wouldn't affect tax base, but it would help long-term development in an area, I believe. Since I've been here, there's been one developer in particular that's been in and out of the office wanting to move forward and not sure what to do, how much he wants to do, depends on what the offsite levy bylaw is going to be, how much it's going to be, those types of things. So this might help solidify either them moving forward or not moving forward, and it may help the development that was talked about this morning. The proposal that was put forward this morning about overland spreading of raw or effluent, I'm not sure that that's doable in the province, but we'll certainly look into that through our engineers. So SEMA Plus, who used to be BSCI, on the recommendation of our legal counsel about 3 years ago, I talked with them. They did a offsite levy bylaw in Airdrie, albeit it's probably simpler than ours because ours is a little more complex with the scope of what we're doing here. And so we would likely use them. It's now SEMA Plus to do this project. And I think they're ready to hit the ground running in the new year, which is not that far away. So, if council feels strongly in moving this development forward, we've got the ASP that Colton and Angie are working on and doing a fantastic job on with Goldfinch. I think there's some excitement around. I'm getting phone calls. I just got one this morning again about people wanting to develop in this area. So we need to put the pieces in place so that they can do that when the time's right.
So when we do this offsite levy, we arrive at a cost of the infrastructure, and then we have to figure out or guesstimate how many people are going to make use of it, and then divide it up. That's basically how it works.
Well, we don't. We hire an engineer to do that, and they'll work with our legal counsel because Joanne helped us and worked with BSCI/SEMA Plus to develop the other offsite levy bylaw for roadways, as you recall. So it's all done through those people that know how to do these types of things. So
I'm just trying to make council aware the upfront costs are borne by council or the Wheatland County. And if any of these developments don't come on stream, or when they do, years down the road, could be years, so.
Let's be clear, all we're asking is the money to do the study and provide the offsite levy bylaw. I have no idea how far it's going to move forward with putting plants and all in place. The estimated cost is $80,000, and I would suggest that maybe want to be in the motion to do that, but I think it's a worthwhile investment to see if we can move some of these developments forward in Wheatland County.
Yeah. Any questions? Scott?
I'd almost like to see this done in all our growth areas. Future.
That's the ultimate plan, but we need to take baby steps as we move forward. This is something I think that the county has done in the past, really limited, but I think it needs to be explored more and more. The West Area Highway 1 structure plan, there's an offsite levy bylaw, but my opinion, this is only my opinion, it was done inappropriately because the offsite levy bylaws are collected by staff when they come in to do the subdivision. So we look like at a development permit, at the development permit stage, which is not the way to do it. It needs to be into the whole cost and not shown up again because people see that as a double charge. So this will be done the right way.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I move that council approve staff to contact their professional engineers to prepare a offsite levy and infrastructure plan for Carsland, Speargrass, Goldfinch area to be funded from the operating continuity reserve.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, can I just request a slight amendment on this motion, please? Just to say up to $80,000.
Up to $80,000.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
I've just got one question on the West Industrial, that offsite. Can that one be revisited? Can we redo that one so that we can do it properly?
Council can do whatever they like, but you can't get it from the developer likely because a lot of the lots are sold. But I'll refer to our legal beagle.
I suppose, firstly, yes, you can, a offsite levy bylaw should be revisited and updated at least annually, because that reflects, you know, the pace of development, what the costs are, where you are at in the build. But what I would like to know from staff is where are you at with new development coming on? Because if the horse has proverbially left the barn because the subdivision development is done, there's not a lot of point in revisiting your offsite levy bylaw because you don't have a lot of scope of collection opportunity left.
So in regards to that, I believe, and I guess Angie or Colton can, I guess, put their comments in as well, please. I believe if the offsite levy was reduced or lowered or eliminated, whatever council felt appropriate, that may spur some economic development, but there's no way to know for sure. We'd have to bring back those numbers so you saw the order of magnitude. That offsite levy bylaw, and Mike may know the answer to this, was originally put in place, I believe, to put the service road over to Highway 9. And that's multi-million dollars worth of project, which we're not even close to have collected anything for that. So, but maybe you can clarify.
Just to speak to that through the chair, the offsite levy was put in place for two reasons, for the stormwater and for the transportation. So we did a master drainage plan for the whole area, for the whole 9 miles from here to the boundary road. And basically had an offsite levy in place that if you couldn't handle it on site, then you'd have to pay this $2,000 per acre to do a pipe system. So that one hasn't been, every developer that's gone in there has done it on site, so we haven't collected anything for the stormwater. The transportation levy was basically because when we put that development in place, when the area structure plan was approved, one of the conditions, one of the conversations through transportation is that that is a freeway status highway. It'll eventually have all at-grade intersections closed, and you need to develop a system to route traffic around these closed intersections. So we developed the whole artillery road, collector road plan. Basically, I think it was $50 million at the end with 2 interchanges, and we basically broke that up into spreading the cost over equally across the 9 miles, however many acres that is. And we do collect that at development permit stage. I think it's about 8,300 an acre, somewhere around there. So that is still in place. Those are the only 2 levies that are in place for that. There's no stormwater, no wastewater, no water, nothing like that. So, and sorry, just to finish there, those plans that are in place right now, we haven't revisited them in at least 7 years. So likely transportation would not be in favor of the plan we have right now for that. So we do need to revisit that and make sure that either we're in place still and we're still on the same page, or we need to look at the levies in total and see if they need to be revamped entirely.
So about how much of that is, that developed land is sold, like has been subdivided and sold of, like what percentage of it is
Through the chair, I can't give a rough percent, but it's quite small. Like the Wheatland Industrial Park has been subdivided into its small lots, but the levy applies to the entire West Highway 1 Industrial ASP, which is a very large area. So I'd say the percentage of the lots in that West Highway 1, I can't guess what a percent would be of that, but the levy would apply to future development permits on other lots down the road.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out if we've got, of that area that's under that area structure plan, is if it's 10%, can we sort of cap that 10% and then everything else that's going to go on from down the road have a proper offsite levy system in place? Like, can we grandfather what's there? I don't know.
I think we could bring back some options. There's, I think, challenges with that because the people that are already there paid an offsite levy. Now to take that away. So I think I hear what you're saying. I think maybe we need to just work on some options and bring back some of the suggestions. There's no perfect solution, I don't think, on this situation. But there's lots of options to look at. So.
Sorry, my thought on this, through the chair, is that we need to relook at the entire plan, the entire area structure plan, because that area is now within the growth management interim plan area as well. There's pros and cons to that. I'm focusing on the pros, not the cons. But I think that area can be helped along the way. But I think we need to look at all the infrastructure, not just part of it. We need to look at the entire system, how it functions, work with AT, look at stormwater, water, wastewater with Mike and Dave, etc. So I think that whole plan needs to come back up, and that would be, I would like to do a workshop with council on that, maybe through a committee of the whole, just to get some of your ideas and input. I know it has gone out to the public once or twice before, but that was some time ago, and that wasn't part of the growth management plan. So we have to look at those rules and regs and then relook at this whole area. We have new council, so you may have some new ideas about that.
Any other questions? Agenda's done, I think. Sure. Want to stay? Yeah. All in favor? Ben did.
We have to be on camera first.
Hmm?